Hi everyone, welcome to this Gallagher Premiership preview on a Friday afternoon. We move the time around a little bit to suit the guests, but also to make sure that we catch the team selections before we have a look at the handicaps, and we're going to get stuck right into those now. Let's welcome our guest this week. He was on top form last week. His best bet, Gloucester, -1.5. Well, it was a bit of a roller coaster in the first half, but it arrived comfortably in the end. And it's Thoughts on Sports. Neil, how's it going, mate?
No, awesome, Brent. Thanks for having me back on the show. Bit of a subdued Gallagher this week with the internationals, but I think that's an ideal chance to just sort of catch the bookies a bit cold. There's some cracking value out there, and I'll be sinking my teeth into it. So I think the stakes will probably be a bit medium sized on the internationals, just due to the bookies always sort of price it up rather well. But I'm going to be flying head first into the Gallagher.
Excellent. Well, I think that's what punters going to watching this show want to hear. That being said, I certainly want to get your opinion at the end of the show on the internationals and anything else you fancy on the weekend. Welcome to the guys who are joining us on a Friday afternoon in the live chat. A reminder, if you missed last night's live edition of the handicap, there is a link down below in the description box, as well as to the newsletter, which hasn't come out yet. We're on a nice little winning run. Got to see if we can extend that. I wanted to hear Neil's views because I'm not strong on too much, and maybe it's a Premiership bet that gets the nod this week. Right, let's get stuck into the games themselves. In the first one I've got here, Neil, and I took these handicaps about 15 minutes ago, which is probably as teams have been announced, so there might be some movement. Saints -1.5 against Exeter Chiefs, and I've got a points line of 55.5.
No, Brent, this is a strong fancy first up for me. I absolutely love Saints to win this fixture. I think you can get them at a board play at about 0.73 or 0.75. So I like that. But if you do want a bit of extra value, take the Northampton -1.5 at 9 to 10. That's a cracking value at Franklin's Gardens. Seriously fast turf. Weather looks superb up there. I'm a bit hesitant on the points line. I've been looking to take unders the last few weeks in the Gallagher, but the weather looks fantastic over in Northampton. Franklin's Gardens is one of the best turfs over there. Saints play seriously attacking rugby, and with Exeter missing a couple of players through to injuries and international duty, I'm not too sure how the second comers will be on defence. So that's just why I'm a bit tentative to take the unders here. It's a Friday night game, so I would also be a bit nervous to take the over. So I think it is quite well priced, but for me, full interest on Saints to win this fixture.
Yeah, just having a look quickly at the board price. Just looking at player bets there, I think you can get 0.78 to 1, so sort of just under 8 to 10. So that's a decent price. I've got a feeling that, looking around at some of the other bookies, I've got a feeling that's not going to last long. It's going to come in maybe to about the 7 to 10, even 13 to 20 mark in places. So, let's get our Friday off to another good start. Moving on to the next game then. Have I jumped? What is that right? Sale -8.5 against Gloucester. Sorry, I moved it by mistake on my side. Got myself a bit confused there. -8.5 against Gloucester and 49.5.
Yeah, Brent, I'd sort of put this as a bit of a tricky fixture, but I think it's been made slightly easier once team news has been out. Gloucester side just looks completely different to bar sort of a couple of players in their forward back to their full strength side. They really get depleted in the backs when the international strikes. Just the likes of Chris Harris, Adam Hastings, Louis Rees-Zammit, they're all unavailable this weekend. So 3 new faces straight into the mix for Gloucester. Gloucester have been fantastic to back. They put in a stellar performance last weekend against Exeter, but that's their home form. Travelling away with some new faces to a Sale side who have been quite nice to back on the spreads this tournament. Usually, I don't like to get behind a Sale Sharks minus, but I just think at 8.5, this is just way too appealing for me to turn down. So yeah, a bit of a medium sized strike on the Sale minus, just due to their history of covering minuses. But I think that they should have enough in the tank to get over the line in this one.
Well, I hope you're watching the show live if you want to follow Neil here, because I think this line's going to move pretty quickly. I saw WJS mentioning there that it's -9.5 overseas. There's still 8.5, like I'm seeing here at player bets. And I see 11.5 at Sunbet. So that, to me, gives me an indication of more where this line could be moving, Neil. Maybe starting even at double figures.
No, spot on, Brett. I think, to be honest, fair value for this line should be about 12.5. So if 8.5 is still available, yeah, that's a cracking play.
Right, let's go on to the third game. Of course, we only have 4 Premiership games. A bit of a pity this season each week with the 2 teams in administration. Newcastle Falcons -2.5 v Bath. quickly have a look. There's 1.5 I see at Sunbet, and player bets is still 2.5, and we've got a points line here of 54.5. Neil?
No, Brent, tricky fixture. Newcastle back on their home turf. They've had a sort of a rocky start to the competition. Bath have looked quite promising in the last few games, but yeah, for me, I'm just going to take the Bath to cover the spread. To be honest, Newcastle are probably slightly better on paper, but I think that Bath have been really boosted by the likes of Ollie Lawrence and Ted Hill coming across from the Worcester Warriors. Those, in my opinion, those were two of the best players that Worcester had to offer. Bar probably Duan van der Merwe there. So I think those are fantastic acquisitions from Bath. Both are England international capped, so a lot of experience and just quality through to the Bath ranks here. And Bath will know, Johan van Graan will know that this is an absolute must-win for them. This is pretty much a battle of the two sides expected to finish in the bottom two here. So it's a complete grab for sort of 4 available points on the line, especially with internationals unavailable. So I just look at that. I just feel like Bath they caused an upset the previous fixture. They've been looking a lot better. They've covered 4 out of their last 5 spreads. Yeah, I'm not going to get off the train just yet. So tentative play, but I think Bath plus 2.5 is the right way to go here.
Right, a quick one, Neil. Is there relegation this year in the Premiership?
No relegation this year, Brent. So yeah.
Okay.
The competition
with so few teams left, it seems I didn't think they might be that they'd be able to do that. Just have a look. Can get a Bath win for 5-2, or is that 15? It'll be 15-10, I guess, the way I look at it.
Yeah, that's a cracking price.
William Hill. Yeah, and we've got one more game to chat about in the Premiership. It's Bristol, and I'll have a quick scan. I see this is gone. This has moved since I posted it up. I had 4.5 just before the game. It's already gone plus 7.5 at player. And I'll quickly just compare. I use player bets and sun bets here mainly because it's easy to see their prices all together. And so you could work on 7.5 here, Neil, and points line still of, let's just check that hasn't changed too much, 54.5 the other points line.
Yeah, Brent, so I fully understand why this line's jumped out. Saracens have been boosted by the return of Max Malins. And for me, they've just got 4 absolute gun players in the side featuring this week. Namely Ben Earl, Alex Good, Max Malins, and Alex Lazowski. To me, those are 4 international quality players. They wouldn't look out of place starting across any of the international sides this weekend. Obviously, they just sort of fall out of favor with the selectors for reasons unbeknown to me. But I mean, those, even when Saracens have all the England internationals, those are still 4 key star players there. So yeah, I think that Saracens should do the business. Bristol also just looking a bit shaky. They've a couple of new players starting into their ranks. Obviously losing the likes of Ellis Genge and Kyle Sigler through to England international duty. So the second choice props come straight into the mix here. So Sarries minus 7.5, I think that's an absolute cracker. Weather's looking okay. In Bristol, I see there's a bit of rain scheduled, but it's possible that it sort of edges out. So a player I do like is unders on Bristol points. I think you can get that at about 25.5. And then Saracens minus 7.5 is a cracker.
Right, excellent. Darren, in agreement with you there on Saracens. Bitsy coming in and just asking why so few games. So Bitsy, basically, unfortunately, 2 of the sides in the league. It's Worcester, and who was the other one again, Neil?
Wasps.
Worcester and Wasps are in administration, pretty much, I suppose, bankruptcy, whatever you want to call it. And that means that generally we lose 2 games a weekend, except, I suppose, when the 2 of them were scheduled to face each other, then we'll get 5 games. But that brings us to the end of the Premiership. I want to get your best bet on the Premiership and also your thoughts on the other games. Neil, but I just want to ask you, so we had a bit of fun on last night's show. Oracle and I were on together. And what we did is we've chosen 3 bets. So this is myself against the Oracle. Canada plus 24.5 tomorrow. That's in the Women's Rugby World Cup. New Zealand minus 7.5 in the Women's Rugby World Cup. And then New Zealand minus 12.5 in, obviously, against Wales. So just before we get into your best bets, if one of us hits all 3, pays the other one 1,000 rand, and if he wins 2-1, it's 500. Would your money be on Oracle or on me this weekend based on those selections?
Sorry, Brent, just to clarify that the picks in front of me are your picks.
Yes, they're my picks. So I'm on the pluses and the plus and the 2 minuses.
Yeah, I'd be on exactly the same 3 as you. So yeah,
that's a relief.
The Oracle could be in a bit of trouble this weekend.
Excellent. We'll see about that. Let's get in then to the the best bets, and you could start off with the Premiership, but then please let's discuss the others briefly as well.
Yeah, Brent. So a best bet would be Northampton to do the business against Exeter this evening. I'm a bit worried, and I do think that Baxter's a fantastic coach for Chiefs, but I just feel like they've just lost too many players, and Saints are on a bit of a high. They dispatched a weak, actually was a relatively strong Bristol side last weekend, and then back at home this weekend. I think they should have enough to overturn Chiefs here. And then next bet would probably be Saracens -7.5. I think that they've got more than enough. And then third, I like Sale -8.5 against Gloucester.
Right, and if we have to move on to the Women's World Cup, anything stand out for you that we've reached the semi-final stage?
Big standout for me is that New Zealand -7.5. But I've put a fair amount of loot down on that fixture, and I think that the Black Fern should have enough to romp home here.
Excellent. Well, my money is firm. Well, I back New Zealand to win the tournament. I'm certainly hoping they arrive there. I'll probably get involved in the -7.5 as well. I think bookies are pricing this on last year's form and not on what we've seen in this tournament to date. And then, of course, we've got the international program, some really great matches there. What are your standouts?
Sure, Brent. It is, to be honest, it's quite a tricky roster. First up, to be honest, my big fancy is France -12.5 at 8-10 against Australia. So that's the only real fixture which has seen my money so far. And then I also do like England -12.5 at 8-10 against Argentina. I think those are two good bets. And then otherwise, I'll just give you my predictions, but I haven't actually placed on the line. I think that Ireland will cover the -3.5 against the Box. I would probably look to potentially an Ireland 1-12 if you can get that at about 15-10 or somewhere along the lines. I think that's good value. Otherwise, Wales, New Zealand, sure, it's a tricky one. I look at that Wales side and it looks decent, but I just look at the All Blacks, and this is sort of the turf where they really come to play here. I know a lot of people who like the Wales to cover the spread this weekend, but I'm staying far clear. If anything, it would be an All Blacks minus for me. So I expect them to cover that 11.5 there, especially with the roof closed. Although Wayne Barnes does sort of favour the underdog in fixtures, he likes to sort of get behind the plus, as it were. And then lastly is Scotland, Fiji. Oh, another one I like Tonga to beat Spain at 8-10. I think that's an absolute cracker. I had a look at their side and littered with quality players. I'm not too familiar with the Spanish side. I do believe that they are on the up, so I understand sort of the pricing in the game, but I think Tonga 8-10 is a cracker. And then lastly, Scotland, Fiji. Sure, tricky one. Absolutely no feel on this. Looked at the Scottish side. Looks incredibly dangerous. Looked at the Fijian side, and it wasn't exactly the side that I was hoping for. But I just can't really tip a Scotland to cover a -19.5. So I think it's one of those where I'd be looking to get stuck into a points line, potentially a Scotland over 34.5 or something along those lines.
Right, so plenty of rugby to look forward to this weekend. I'm hoping, I haven't checked yet, there's Ireland A against All Blacks 15 tonight. I'm hoping that's televised. I think it starts at about 9:45 tonight. So hoping that is televised on SuperSport. But Neil, thanks a lot, man. It's going to be a cracking weekend. And wishing you all of the best on the punting front. And look forward to chatting to you again soon as well.
No, thanks so much, Brent, and good luck to all the punters out there. But also just enjoy the rugby viewing. It's always fantastic to have a weekend jam-packed full of rugby internationals. Yeah,
this is what we live for as rugby punters. Absolutely no doubt about that. A reminder, you can catch the link to the handicap if you missed it below, and also subscribe to the Best Bet newsletter. That's going to be going out probably in the next couple of hours. Got a bit of work to do to wrap my head around that yet. Thanks, everyone. Thanks to the guys who contributed to the live chat. We'll see you next week, 9 o'clock Thursday night for the handicap. Rugby chat that matters.